Hello and welcome to PowerServer 2017 product installation for web and mobile development. Before you start the PowerServer 2017 installation, make sure that you've completed the prerequisites. If you haven't viewed the prerequisites video tutorial, please do so now and then return to the product installation. In this video, we're doing the .NET version of the developer configuration and installation for PowerServer 2017. Note that you must have PowerBuilder 2017 Universal Edition installed in order to use PowerServer 2017. The prerequisites checklist are: you need a version of Windows from version 7 to 10, either 32 or 64-bit. For this video, I'm using Windows 10 Fall Creator Edition. You'll need Appeon PowerBuilder 2017 Universal Edition and the latest maintenance release, at least maintenance release version 2, which creates an update to PowerBuilder 2017 to interact properly with PowerServer 2017. SAP SQL Anywhere version 16 or 17, and either again the 32 or 64-bit client must be installed. Note that SQL Anywhere Developer Edition is free and downloadable from the SAP website. You'll need a version of the .NET Framework, version 4.x, where X represents the version of the framework that reflects your version of Microsoft Windows. In this video, I'm using version 10 of Microsoft Windows, so I have the framework version 4.7 installed. You'll need an IIS server installed with your Microsoft Windows as well. Do not install the IIS server from the Microsoft Developer Network. It must be the one that's included with your copy of Microsoft Windows. On the left-hand side, we can see the PowerBuilder 2017 Universal installation. After that installation is complete, the PowerServer Toolkit will also be installed within the PowerBuilder Universal IDE environment. For PowerServer Web and Mobile being a separate product, you'll notice that on the left-hand side for the installation, that PowerServer Mobile would have been installed. This is not quite the same as PowerServer Web and Mobile. So before you start the PowerServer installation, make sure that you remove the help from the PowerServer that was installed with PowerBuilder Universal, and also remove PowerServer Mobile itself because it's not compatible if you install it with PowerServer Web and Mobile product. Note also the reverse is true. If you install PowerServer Web and Mobile and you install PowerBuilder Universal after the fact, do not install PowerServer Mobile, as this will basically corrupt the PowerServer Web Mobile installation. Once you start the PowerServer 2017 install, it will validate that the PowerBuilder Universal IDE includes the toolkit before proceeding. If so, it will go ahead and install the PowerServer help. Note in this tutorial I'm installing the PowerServer 2017 64-bit version for Microsoft Windows and the .NET version, not the Java Enterprise Edition. During the installation, PowerServer will also be installed underneath IIS. Note that PowerServer is really a helper to the main application server IIS and includes a whole raft of services that provide both development deployment, debugging, and also runtime services. Once that's been complete, the install will continue to install the example applications. This is optional. However, it's highly recommended that you install the example applications. The example applications provide you a great way of sanity testing that the installation has been done correctly. So what are the installation steps? First of all, download the installer, unzip it to a folder, make sure you have a product key that was supplied by the Appeon sales or support team, and then run setup.exe. Let's have a look at an actual PowerServer installation at this point. So here you've noticed I've actually downloaded the actual installation file itself in a compressed zip format. So I'd use the right-hand mouse button here and I would extract the data to a new folder. I've already done that so you can see the folder actually exists. I've also received a product key from Appeon, so now I'm ready to perform the installation. So if I go to the unzip folder, you can see setup.exe. Use the right-hand mouse button instead of double-clicking and select Run as Administrator. Now you see the main PowerServer installation dialog pop up. Again, it doesn't hurt to review the server settings, README, and the product manuals, especially the installation part, before you start the install, just to get a better appreciation of what's going on behind the scenes. I'm going to now select the Install button. So notice at this point the installation is going to come up with a wizard. It'll ask you a whole bunch of questions and then perform the actual setup installation. Select Next. Accept the terms of the license agreement after you've read it carefully. Note that you could be installing, based on your product key, PowerServer Web, Mobile, or the combination Web and Mobile. I'm going to type in my actual product key that I received. You notice after I do that, I get a green check mark beside the product key, indicating that the key is correct. And it also confirms with the checkbox above that, again, PowerServer Web and Mobile, the Developer Edition is being installed based on that product key. Note that the Developer Edition is the full-blown production version. It's just restricted to 5 concurrent users. Other than that, all the functionality is exactly the same as the PowerServer that you put into production. Select Next. Next, it's going to ask you if you are going to install PowerServer for .NET, and it's also going to confirm that you're going to install the PowerServer help. These 2 checkboxes should be enabled. Note that the PowerServer web component would only be used when you're doing a production installation of PowerServer. This is where you're going to have multiple instances of PowerServer running, and you're using features such as load balancing and failover, just to name a few. For the development environment, please leave this unchecked. And then select Next. The next question that the installation wizard is going to ask you is, would you actually like me to install a new website underneath IIS? So you can say select a new website. Typically, this option is only used again in production, where you'd like to actually create a unique website name and a specific TCP/IP port address and different home directory. For the development environment, I strongly suggest that you continue with the default, which is select the existing website of your IIS current installation. After that radio button is selected, select Next. Again, it just confirms that we're going to install PowerServer for .NET, and then again, by default, it will install the demo applications. I suggest that you leave that checked, and then you can use those as a sanity test at the end of the installation cycle. The next question is going to be which database management system you'd like to actually install a demo database for the demo applications. I have the latest version of SQL Anywhere from SAP, so I select SQL Anywhere 17, and I have the 64-bit version installed. Note that PowerServer itself, on a 64-bit machine and a 64-bit version of PowerServer, will use the 64-bit version of SQL Anywhere client. Remember that the PowerBuilder IDE, however, even in a 64-bit environment, is still 32-bit. Therefore, SQL Anywhere client used will be the 32-bit version. So make sure in SQL Anywhere that you have both the client 32-bit and 64-bit pieces installed. Then select Next. The next question in the wizard is, what is the username that's going to be created in the actual main console for the Appeon PowerServer? The main console is called AEM, or Appeon Enterprise Manager. The default user ID that will be created is admin. The default password is admin. I'd suggest at this point that you leave that default. Again, you can always log in with the admin console later on after the install and change the password to anything that you'd like. The next question is the ASP.NET settings for web applications. These are the default settings. Again, you can modify the default settings anytime after the installation by using the Appeon Enterprise Manager. So for now, I wouldn't check Modify Default Current Installation Settings. I just leave them default and select Next. The wizard now just confirms all the answers that you've given to the different questions. If you're happy with that, select Next. And now the actual installation will begin. Note this will take several minutes depending on the speed of your current processor and overall PC machine performance. In the next step of the installation, the PowerServer install is going to ask you to install the PowerServer help. You can change the default destination folder by selecting the Browse button, but the default is normally acceptable. So once you actually have the correct folder that you'd like it targeted to, select Next, and then select Next again after the confirmation. At the very end of the PowerServer 2017 installation, you'll see a dialog at the end asking you to restart IIS Server and also to register the .NET Framework, whatever version you have for your version of Microsoft Windows. So leaving both checkboxes checked and select the Finish would be the current recommendation. After the installation has been completed, README will appear within your current browser, saying that if you have Windows Server 2016, 2012, 2008 R2, you may have to create additional steps in order to complete the installation. For Windows 7, 8, 8.1, or Windows 10, nothing else is required. Once you've completed the entire installation, you'll come back to the Install dialog. Here again, you can visit the training videos at this point, visit our website for more information on PowerServer, or again, continue on to some of the other product manuals for some more information. Other than that, select the exit. So now we've been in the cycle of sanity testing. So what do we need to do now is to make sure that PowerServer is actually installed correctly. For that, we can use the PowerServer Enterprise Manager. Notice all you need to do is type into any browser //localhost/AEM. Notice that the Appeon Enterprise Manager, which is basically the PowerServer console, is now responding. Notice at the bottom it says PowerServer 2017 build 1689, which is correct. That's what I was expecting. Notice the user ID will be admin. Again, the default password, if you haven't changed it in the installation itself, is again admin. Select login at this point, and you can see that the actual console responds. Now we need to go to license management. You'll notice here that Appeon server itself has not been activated because you notice at the bottom of the screen here, the activate button is bold and highlighted. So the next thing, what do you do for PowerServer itself to actually activate the server and your current license? So returning back to Appeon Enterprise Manager, let's click the Activate button. Notice what it's going to do at this point is to actually confirm that you're using PowerServer 2017 and the correct build. And this is both web and mobile development. And based on your product key, it's going to actually generate an activation request. That binary file that will actually be downloaded to your local PC is one called license.activation.bin file. If we actually look at that, you'll see it's just a hex file. It contains a lot of information that you probably wouldn't understand. But that's okay. What we're going to do is we're actually going to send that to Appeon support, and they're going to return you a file called license.appeon. Again, if we looked at that, you'll see that again it's another binary file, but it contains the license registration information that comes back from Appeon to activate your PowerServer 2017 installation. And now at this point, if we return back to the licensing and we want to hit the Activate button, we're going to apply the license. We're going to select license.appeon, the one that Appeon support actually sent us. And then we're going to hit the Import button. You see here that the license has been imported successfully. And then clicking on the left-hand side, licensing again, you can see there we are now activated. And we're basically running a standard offline license. Notice that PowerServer Mobile that comes with the PowerBuilder 2017 Universal installation can be activated online. However, PowerServer 2017 Web and Mobile, you have to use this offline process that I just went through. So what happens if you actually installed PowerServer 2017 Mobile itself? We'd actually have a little bit of a different process. When we actually went into AEM, we would actually see the ability to hit the Activate button. And what we need to do first before we hit the Activate button on PowerServer Mobile, which supports online activation, we actually have to traverse over to the Appeon website. We'd have to go to the User Center, down to PowerServer Mobile, and then select Assign User, and select, for example, a user to that particular instance of the purchase of PowerServer itself. Once this is done, then the activation will actually occur, and when we come back here to Appeon Enterprise Manager in PowerServer Mobile, we'll see that we've been activated based on that user identification that has been registered to the Appeon website. And the actual license type is now online. Right-hand side here only applies to PowerServer Mobile installed inside and underneath PowerBuilder Universal installation. On the left-hand side, we see the process that we just went through, which is PowerServer Web and Mobile, and using the ability to actually receive an activation file from Appeon. And once we import that, then PowerServer itself is ready to go for your development. So now what we need to do is just make sure that for example, the sales application demo works. I suggest at the beginning of this video that you install the sales application demo, and then we can do some sanity testing. So going back to the PowerBuilder IDE, notice that we can actually go to the PowerServer demo. That PowerServer demo is located typically in wherever users, public, documents, Appeon, toolkit, Appeon demo. When we go in there and we activate that particular workspace, we'll see here that there's a target call, Sales Application Demo, and we can actually highlight that and then run the application. And we'll see that it actually looks and feels. For example, we can actually go in and have a look at some particular customer details. We can have a look at different types of ordering, and we can process, again, toolbars. We can process through the help menus or whatever pull-down menus we have. So moving on to test the sales application in the web environment, let's have a look at the configuration summary. We can see that the sales application was installed underneath the PowerServer 2017 installation. We're ready to go and test it. So if we type in / localhost, for example, /sales, and hit the enter key, you can see here that it actually starts the application, and the application is now running inside the web browser. Again, we can just accept the defaults for the login, and we can go through and we can have a look at the different application components. Again, going back to that data window, for example, it has the actual graph in it. We can process the toolbars, we can process the pull-down menus. So everything seems to be working. Our web application is running, which means that PowerServer Web is working just fine. So we've completed that part of the sanity testing. So what happens now when we actually go from the web to the mobile environment? We'd like to be able to test that as well. So if I return back to my PowerBuilder environment and I select Run, you'll notice here that I can run on a mobile device, but you won't be able to do that because you haven't installed Appeon Workspace yet on the mobile device. We do have a QR code, so we can install the application onto the mobile device using the QR code. But you'll need to proceed to the next video, which is installing and configuring Appeon Workspace on the mobile device before you can continue on with this particular sanity testing. But we'll cover that in the next video. So congratulations! You've now successfully installed PowerServer 2017 Web and Mobile. Thanks for watching.